No one is born a hero. No one starts at the top. Every champion once stood where you are now. At the bottom. Unseen. Unheard. Unproven. They didn't have the answers. They didn't have the skills. They didn't have the money, the mentors, or the map. What they had was a dream. A flicker of belief. In a world that didn't believe in them. They were doubted. Dismissed. Talked down to. Pushed aside. And for a while, they believed the voices. The ones that said, "You're not enough. You'll never make it. Be realistic." But then something changed. Not the world. Not the people. Them. They changed. They got tired. Tired of feeling like a background character in their own story. Tired of waiting for a miracle. Tired of playing small so others wouldn't feel uncomfortable. So they made a choice. A quiet, private, powerful decision. I will rise. I will grow. I will not stay here. Because rock bottom isn't the end. It's the foundation. The place where strength is built. Where courage is born. Where heroes begin. No applause. No spotlight. Just you. Your pain. And your potential. This is the part they don't show in the movies. The lonely mornings. The failures. The voices in your head telling you to quit. But you don't. You fight. You fall. You get back up. Because inside of you, buried under doubt, fear, and struggle, is a fire that refuses to die. This isn't just a story. It's your story. And it starts now. From nothing. From broken. From zero. To hero. 10 inspiring stories of people who hit rock bottom and bounced back. Life's journey is often a tumultuous one, filled with peaks of joy and valleys of despair. But there are moments so dark, so crushing, that they don't feel like a valley. They feel like rock bottom. It's the moment when the silence is deafening. When your bank account is empty, your body exhausted, your soul bruised. When no one's calling, no one's watching, and worst of all, you've started to believe the voice in your head that says, "Maybe I'm not enough." Yet in that silence, a fire begins. Because rock bottom is not the end. It's the beginning, the raw foundation on which true greatness is built. It is here, in the dirt and the dark, where resilience is born. 1. J.K. Rowling, The Magic of Perseverance. Before Hogwarts captured the imagination of millions, J.K. Rowling was a single mother, broken, battling depression. She wrote in cafes, scribbling ideas on scraps of paper while her baby slept beside her. Rejected by 12 publishers, told that children's fantasy doesn't sell, Rowling had every reason to quit. But she didn't. Because she believed. In her story. In herself. In something greater than her pain. Harry Potter was born not in a castle, but in struggle, in a soul who had tasted despair and still chose to dream. Today, Rowling is a billionaire. But her true victory? She gave the world proof that rock bottom can be the birthplace of magic. 2. Oprah Winfrey, Breaking Chains, Building Empires. Oprah Winfrey wasn't always the media queen we know. She was born into poverty, raised in a household torn by trauma, abuse, and instability. At 14, she lost a child. At 17, she was working on local radio, pushing through the pain with every broadcast. The world told her, "You don't belong here. Too poor. Too broken. Too black. Too female." But Oprah's pain became her platform. She transformed trauma into truth and gave voice to millions. From being fired from her first TV job for being unfit for television to building a multi-billion-dollar media empire, Oprah's rise proves that your past doesn't define you, your decisions do. 3. Nick Vujicic, Life Without Limits. Imagine waking up every day with no arms and no legs. That was Nick Vujicic's reality. Born with tetraamelia syndrome, he grew up questioning his worth, wondering if life was even worth living. Bullied, isolated, suicidal at 10 years old. Nick knew the depths of despair. But one day, everything changed. He realized, if I can't have a miracle, maybe I can be one. Nick turned his limitations into a mission, to inspire others. Today, he travels the world, speaks to millions, surfs, skydives, and smiles with a joy many able-bodied people have never known. His message is simple: you're not your condition. You're your conviction. For Malala Yousafzai, bravery in the face of bullets. At 15, Malala Yousafzai was shot in the head for daring to say, girls deserve to go to school. The Taliban wanted her silenced. Instead, they amplified her voice. Most would retreat, hide, grieve. Not Malala. She chose to rise. From her hospital bed, she became a global symbol of courage. She won the Nobel Peace Prize at 17. But more than accolades, she gave hope, not just to girls in Pakistan, but to anyone fighting injustice. Malala's rock bottom was nearly fatal. But she turned tragedy into triumph, and fear into fuel. 5. Steve Jobs, rejected by his own creation. What happens when the company you built from your garage fires you? Steve Jobs found out the hard way. Ousted from Apple at age 30, he could have walked away bitter. Instead, he started again, building Next and Pixar, both of which would redefine their industries. When Jobs returned to Apple, he wasn't just back, he was better. The iPhone. The iPad. The revolution. His exile became his evolution. Because sometimes rock bottom isn't rejection. It's redirection. 6. Bethany Hamilton, soul surfer, unstoppable spirit. At 13, Bethany Hamilton lost her arm in a shark attack. Most would never step in the ocean again. But just 4 weeks later, she was back on a surfboard. Bethany didn't just heal. She charged. With every wave she conquered, she reminded the world, I'm more than my body. I'm my belief. She went on to become a top-ranked surfer and a global inspiration. Not because she avoided the storm, but because she learned to ride through it. 7. Nelson Mandela, 27 years in a cell, a lifetime of change. Imagine spending 27 years behind bars. Most would break. Mandela bent, but never bowed. When he walked out of prison, he didn't seek revenge. He sought reconciliation. He forgave the people who locked him away. And then led them. Mandela didn't just change South Africa. He changed what leadership means. His time in prison was his crucible. And from that fire, a global icon emerged. 8. Elizabeth Gilbert, healing through the journey. After a bitter divorce and a soul-crushing depression, Elizabeth Gilbert didn't know who she was anymore. So she left. She traveled, not to escape, but to rediscover. Italy. India. Indonesia. Her memoir Eat, Pray, Love became a phenomenon. But the real story wasn't the book, it was the breakdown before the breakthrough. Gilbert reminded millions that sometimes the only way to find yourself is to lose everything that isn't you. 9. Chris Gardner, homeless, hopeless, but not broken. Chris Gardner had $21 in his pocket and a toddler in his arms when he found himself homeless on the streets of San Francisco. He slept in subway bathrooms. He begged for work. He studied for his broker's license by day and cradled his child at night. But he never gave up. Today, Chris is a millionaire entrepreneur. His life inspired the pursuit of happiness, but his real achievement, never letting poverty steal his purpose. Chris proves that the dream is free. But the hustle is what makes it real. 10. Joaquin Phoenix, from shadows to spotlight. Fame doesn't protect you from darkness. Joaquin Phoenix battled addiction, depression, and personal tragedy. He walked away from Hollywood. He lost his brother. He lost himself. But slowly, through therapy, through art, through silence, he returned. And when he did, he gave the world Joker. A haunting, Oscar-winning performance born from personal pain. Joaquin's story reminds us that healing isn't linear. It's messy, human, and hard. But it's possible. Each of these stories begins the same way. With heartbreak. With failure. With fear. But here's what they discovered, and what you must too. Rock bottom is not your enemy. It's your origin story. It's the place where lies are stripped away. Where you face yourself with nothing to hide behind. No fame. No filters. Just you, and a choice. To stay there. Or to rise. And rising doesn't mean sprinting. Sometimes it means crawling. Sometimes it means crying. But always, always, it means choosing to believe that there's still more ahead than what's behind. You are not your failure. You are not your pain. You are not your past. You are becoming. Right now. Right here. In this rock-bottom moment. You are being forged. Not in comfort, but in fire. Because heroes aren't born. They're made. In silence. In struggle. In shadows. And when they rise, the world takes notice. The shift. Every hero you admire made a decision. Not when things were easy. But when they were broken. Confused. Alone. The shift began not with answers, but with a choice. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Lao Tzu. For a long time I thought I understood this quote. It's so straightforward, there seems little room for misinterpretation. And yet, there is. See, for many years, I thought Lao Tzu was saying that every journey begins with that first, single physical step. We put a foot out in front of us, lean forward slight, and then whoosh. Away we go. But that's not the first step. Not by a long shot. The first step is never physical. It is entirely mental. The first step is a decision. A decision to commit. A decision to act. If we never make this decision, we will never do. Definition. The word decision comes from Latin and it literally means to cut off. By making a decision, we effectively cut out all other possibilities. We make them inaccessible. Remove them from the equation. They are no longer open to us. This sudden loss of options, the fear that we might make the wrong decision and choose incorrectly, holds us prisoner. Indecision reigns, and in its wake we are left shackled. Unable to move forward, unable to go back. We succumb to analysis paralysis. This is where discontentment appears. Because, like a shark, we humans drown when we're not moving forward. We drown in discontentment and frustration and melancholy. You need to be moving forward. And as Lao Tzu reminds us, you cannot move forward without first making a decision. Your first step, decide what you want. I recommend taking some good old-fashioned me time, sitting down with a notebook, and jotting down what exactly it is you want. Define your wants. Don't censor yourself with thoughts of, oh, this would be nice, but it's not realistic. All goals are equally valid, equally plausible, but only if you decide to throw the full weight of your ability and passion into it. Now, if you're like me, at this point, you probably have a pretty long list of goals. Step 2. Prioritize what you want. This is an incredibly important step, but it's the one most people fail to do. Create a hierarchy of your wants goals. If you do not clearly establish which goals are more important to you than others, then inevitably, when the going gets tough and you must make a decision between one goal and another, you will opt for whichever one is easier to accomplish. This is called the principle of least resistance. Now, I'm not a fortune teller, but I can all but guarantee that whatever goals you hold in highest esteem, the big hairy, crazily audacious ones that you're afraid to share with friends and family for fear of ridicule, are by their very definition, the most difficult ones to achieve. So, if you fail to prioritize these goals above all others, you will never take the first steps in actually achieving them. The only way to combat this ingrained, default position is to list out your goals and then decide which ones are the most important to you. Step 3. Do what you want. This is the hardest step, because this is the point in the process where you must make an active decision to do and then you must follow through. Every single day. It is not enough to wake up and say, I'm going to write a novel. It's not even enough to wake up every day for a week and say, I'm going to write a novel. You must wake up and say, I'm going to write a novel, and then you must actually sit down to write the blasted thing every single day until the project is complete. This is the only way to achieve anything of great value. Drains on your willpower. Studies indicate that willpower is not some bottomless well from which we can repeatedly pull. On the contrary, like a muscle, it has a finite capacity for exertion. You can only do so many push-ups before your arms give out, and no matter how bad you want just one more rep, it won't happen. The muscle can give no more. It's the same with willpower. Problem is, most people don't think about willpower in these terms, and instead of safeguarding their decision-making powers for the really big issues, we squander our willpower on tiny, inconsequential things all day long. For example, deciding what you were going to eat for breakfast this morning, deciding what to wear, deciding which route to take to work, etc. Decisions from pxl.com. We're inundated with countless tiny decisions, and yes, they absolutely drain your willpower. So, what can we do to plug these drains? Create a routine. Specifically, create both a morning and an evening routine. Standardize your eating, sleeping, and exercise. These are the 3 levers controlling your energy levels throughout the day. If you form habits designed to address each of these 3 in a way that minimizes the decision-making process for you on a daily basis, you will benefit both from having more energy, generally being healthier, and you'll have a surplus of willpower left over. Now, here's the irony of creating routine in an attempt to lower the number of decisions you need to attend. Sticking to a routine requires a lot of willpower. That is, until it becomes habit. Once it becomes habit, well, holy gee whiz, Batman, you will suddenly find yourself with an incredible amount of free will to dispense in big heaping handfuls towards the large goals in life that you've already stated mean the most to you. Eating. If you love cooking, elaborate, diverse meals, great. If you despise cooking, equally great. The point here is to create consistency and routine. I eat the same thing every morning: 3 eggs with some pepper jack cheese, 2 pieces of toast with honey, and an apple. I eat the same thing every day for lunch: 2 apples, a sandwich, some almonds, and an energy bar of some sort. For many of you, this sort of monotonous eating schedule would rob you of your will to live. I get that. And if that's you, then you're going to require a more diverse menu. But that's okay. The key here isn't to limit what you're allowed to eat, it's to be planned and intentional and committed. Sleep. Every body is different. As such, your sleep requirements will vary. So I'm not going to tell you how much sleep you should get, or when. For me, I fall asleep every night between 10:30 and 11 o'clock, and I wake up between 4:45 and 5 o'clock. 6 to 6.5 hours works well for me, but it might not be your cup of tea. Experiment. You spend a third of your life sleeping. Don't treat it as though it's some task of non-importance. It is critical to understand all the facets of your particular sleep cycle. Are you an early riser? Do you need absolute silence? Maybe you like to have a light on in the corner. Doesn't really matter what your weirdo sleep habits are, as long as you understand them and leverage them to their greatest effect so that you can be as mentally fresh and engaged throughout the day as possible. Exercise. Going to the gym sucks. Some people like it, but the vast majority do not. I sympathize. However, if you allow your health exercise to take a backseat to work, life and everything else, you are going to devolve into a flabby puddle lacking motivation to tackle all of life's challenges. Create a schedule and stick to it. Remove the guesswork. Do not leave room for willpower. Tell yourself, I go to the gym on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays for an hour, and then go do it. After a couple months, habits form, and it no longer requires quite the output of willpower it once did. The only way to get to that point, however, is by doing. So start now. Go do. Fortify your decision with commitment. There is great power in the written word. And no, I'm not just saying that because I'm a writer. Behavioral science shows that our commitment to a task, and therefore the likelihood we'll continue pursuing said task, greatly increases when we write down our intention. I will write a book by 2018. I will lose 20 pounds by December. I will wrestle the Loch Ness Monster into submission by next week. Doesn't matter what your goals are. Write them down. Then put them up in places you cannot avoid them. Put some sticky notes on your computer so that you have to stare down your past self's commitment to a goal every single day. Leverage the psychological principle of consistency to your advantage. This principle states that we as individuals will readily change our behaviors so as to remain consistent with our personal view of self. By writing down your goals, you acknowledge this view of self, and create a record of your commitment. If you're serious about committing to the decisions you make, write them down and speak them out loud, every day. There's a kind of pain that doesn't scream. It lingers quietly. The kind of pain where you're not bleeding on the outside, but inside, you're drowning. You wake up tired. Not just from lack of sleep, but from life itself. You look in the mirror, and you barely recognize yourself. Not because you've changed, but because you haven't. Days blur into weeks. The same routine. The same excuses. You scroll. You numb. You wait. For something, anything, to change. Music starts to swell slightly, like a pulse building. But then, one quiet moment hits you. A whisper in your chest. I can't live like this anymore. No lightning bolt. No applause. Just a decision. Enough is enough. You don't know the plan. You don't have it all figured out. But something inside of you shifts. A quiet rebellion begins. Because there comes a moment when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the fear of change. When you whisper to yourself, I don't know how yet, but I'm not staying here. Mindset is one of the most powerful tools in your arsenal to control the direction of your life. Before you do anything, you have to believe it's possible. But mindset can be an elusive word, something experts and self-help gurus use to describe a concept that can often be difficult to understand, let alone attain. Part of the reason mindset can seem a bit vague is that there are a lot of different ways to define it. In general, mindset is nothing more than a set of assumptions or beliefs you have. That's it. But what defines those beliefs and what behaviors identify those beliefs are where the competing definitions can get a bit muddled. 12 questions to ask yourself to determine your mindset. While the basic definition of mindset can seem fairly straightforward, the underlying belief systems can be trickier. Here are 12 questions to ask yourself to help determine what kind of mindset you have. Do you see the world in have and have not? Do you believe in talent or process? Do you see setbacks as failure or opportunity? Is criticism helpful or hurtful? What is your initial reaction to obstacles? Do you give up or push through? Do you believe in perfectionism or messy progress? When others succeed, do you see that as a good for your goal or a threat to your goal? Can you change your skills, abilities, and intelligence in a meaningful way throughout your life? Do you believe some things just come easier to others? Are challenges exciting or demotivating? Do you compare yourself to others? Do you enjoy learning new things? Or would you rather stick with what you know? You can take this list further and break down how you react to new challenges and goals. Understanding how you feel about specific situations can help you identify where you might have some fixed beliefs. Even if you have a mostly open, abundant, and growth-orientated mindset, there might still be some underlying beliefs that can hold you back. Knowing what they are and how they can hide is pivotal to changing your mindset. Everything you're going through is preparing you for what you asked God for. You've just got to quit tripping while you are in the process. Because the process is necessary. You may not see it now, but when he gets you there, on the other side of it, you're gonna see exactly why it went that way. And you're gonna be okay with it. But quit tripping during the process. Oh Lord, why me? You ain't the only one. Oh Lord, why me? You ain't the only one. Oh Lord, why'd I lose my job? You ain't the only one unemployed. Oh Lord, why'd he leave me? You ain't the first chick who got left. This might not even be your last time getting a left. Pull yourself together and quit tripping cause you in the process. God is processing you. He ain't through with you. If he was through with you, you would not wake up in the morning. He gonna fix it. Everything that's wrong. First of all, let me tell you this right here. Why you tripping? I look back on my life and all that I've been through. So the stuff I'm currently going through, I have built up enough reservoir. That living in a car taught me that this ain't it. So the things I'm going through now, I know, this ain't it. That he gonna come get me in a minute. So all I gotta do is sit tight. I ain't in a bad place. Now, I ain't where I wanna be, but the spot I'm in, it's better than where I was. I ain't homeless. So what I'm going through right now, y'all don't know, I've got some challenges. People think when you think famous or rich, that your problems is over. Sarcastically chuckling, they've got a whole new set of yem for you. They got some stuff you ain't seen. Biggie wrote a song that said, one time, more money, more problems. I gotta tell you something, that boy wasn't ever lying. But I'll tell you the truth right now. The problems I got right now, I'll take M. Cause the problems I had when I was homeless, I don't want them no more. See, money gonna change your life a little bit, folks. All of you gonna get more. But you gotta ask for it. It's like this young lady said, I said, you have not. Because you ask not. Listen to me, the Bible says you have not cause you ask not. It didn't say you have not. Cause you don't make enough, it didn't say you have not. Cause you don't make enough, it didn't say you have not cause your credit ain't straight. It simply say you have. Not because you ask not. But you don't ask a cause. You ain't got it together. When you ask God for something, quit tripping. He got it from here. Well, Lord, if I could just stayed with him a little bit longer. Maybe you don't need him. Maybe he the reason you ain't got nothing now. Well, I don't wanna leave him cause I been with him 8 years. Well, hold up, whoa whoa whoa, you wanna 8 more years of this? Let his monkey ass go. Audience clapping, but now God can't give you what you want cause you want to hold onto what you got. You all in the way. Now you telling him how to bless you. You can't tell God how to bless you. It's a simple process. The only reason I'm telling you this, cause this is how I made it. I just do me. I'm just being me. I stay uniquely who I am because you are okay just the way you are. Because you're God-made. You uniquely who you are. He wanted you to be just like you are. Audience clapping, I mean really man. If you look in life and just step outside for a minute and quit tripping, it really ain't no problem. That God I served has done this for me, he'll do the same thing for you. Audience cheering. For building discipline. Heroes aren't made in a day. They're made daily. Change doesn't happen in a day. But it does happen daily. This is where heroes are forged, not in the spotlight, but in repetition. Every morning you show up, tired, unsure, maybe even afraid, but you show up anyway. That's where it begins. You start small. 10 pages a day. 20 push-ups. 1 job. then 2. 1 video. Then 10. It's not glamorous. It's not exciting. But it's consistent. You're building something the world can't see yet. Discipline. Grit. Character. It all started when I realized I had hit rock bottom. I was getting up at 3 p.m. every day. Only ate junk food, lay in bed watching YouTube and smoking a lot of weed. My room was always a complete mess. I completely disregarded my study while I was living off a study loan. Every night I would hang out with a friend who would do the same and we'd smoke weed and watch screens until about 5 a.m. It really was rock bottom. This went on for a long time until I saw I had to change my life. Habit building. I read a book called The Slight Edge. The idea of the book was that with consistent, incremental improvement, anyone could reach anything. It also debunked the idea of a quantum leap, which at first I believed in. I liked the idea and started implementing it to form positive habits in my life. I started with NoFap, meditation, reading, cleaning and some more. I made a lot of mistakes when I first started out. So some advice on habit building I have accumulated is this. Don't trust motivation. Motivation is good if it's there, but it shouldn't be the foundation of the habits you create. Why? Because motivation isn't always there, and when it's gone you also lose the habits that you build on top of it. I experienced this a lot of times. I would have a streak of 100+ days meditation, miss 3 days, and completely give up until I had the motivation again to start over. So how can I build habits then? Do it based on willpower. The big difference is not to say to yourself, I'm gonna read 20 pages every day because I'm so motivated to gain knowledge. But that you say, I'm going to force myself to start reading every day because I will have enough willpower to always do that. The key is that if you make the requirement so small that you can always do it, you will never fail. So doing, for example, 1 push-up every day. You will never fail that requirement. But if you have very little motivation one day and think about doing 20 push-ups, it just seems intimidating and you don't do it. Some people might say, only starting to read or doing 1 push-up will never get me anywhere. And I agree, but the thing is that you can do more. And you will usually do more. Once you forced yourself, with willpower, to get into push-up position and do 1 push-up, you'll probably think, I can do 1 more, and 1 more and so on. Same for reading. Once you've forced yourself to sit in a chair with a book and started reading, you won't stop after just 1 word. You will do a lot more than the initial requirement more times than not. It will also give you a sense of, I did this. Especially if your requirement is, say, 1 push-up, and you do 10. You will have done 9 extra. As opposed to when you require yourself to do 20 and do 10. You will have done 10 too little. Try it right now, force yourself on the ground to do 1 push-up. I'm sure you have the willpower to do that. The key is to make the requirement so small you will never fail it. Build the habit on a foundation of willpower. If motivation comes along, that's great. Reading. The one habit that has done the most for my life is to read non-fiction. I bought an e-reader and started to read daily. I recommend buying an e-reader a lot. Here are some of the benefits. Very portable. Whenever I'm in public transport, I pull it out and read some pages. Buying books is instant and you can read anything you'd like. If you have little money, there are a lot of places where you can download ebooks for free. It has a backlight, so you can read in your bed, lying on your side, in the dark. Most come with blue light filters as well. Some of the benefits of reading non-fiction. You can learn directly from great people. There are books on anything that you find interesting. For me, it's psychology. There are a lot of self-help books on the market that will give you advice that you can practically apply in your life. I'm sure there are a lot more, but for the sake of not writing a book as a post, this will do. I think the most important thing as a prerequisite for discipline is good physiology. If you aren't feeling good, it's hard to do things that would count as disciplined behavior. So that's why I would recommend reading some books about physiology. Books that have had a profound impact on my life are Mini Habits, Meet Your Happy Chemicals, The Heart Math Solution, The Willpower Instinct, Cupid's Poisoned Arrow, Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience and Awareness Through Movement. If you'll read all these books, you will learn how to create healthy habits in your life without making it hard, how your brain chemicals work, how to instantly lower stress and deal with negative thought and emotion, how willpower works, why it matters and how to get more of it, how orgasm induces neurochemical brain changes for 2 weeks and how it's evolutionary designed to break romantic relationships. What a flow experience is, and why it should be the goal for all activities in life to turn into one, that everyone stops progressing in the most basic things like breathing, posture, etc., because only the minimal in life is needed to get on. It also provides lessons on how to improve these parts of life. Gaining knowledge in this field will give you the ability to make the changes in your life that will benefit your overall feeling. Feeling good overall, in your body and mind, is required for doing productive things. Dopamine. I'm a psychology student, so when I got into self-help I was naturally interested in the brain's place in self-improvement. Dopamine is the key player here. Most people think dopamine is responsible for pleasure. This is a big misunderstanding. Dopamine is actually responsible for wanting and motivation. When the dopamine part of the brain was first discovered, it was discovered in rats. The researchers hooked up a lever to the rat's dopamine circuit to shock the dopamine circuit, mimicking dopamine release whenever the rats would pull the lever. The rats soon ignored anything else and only pulled the lever until they died of starvation and fatigue. Next, the researchers, this one is a bit cruel, would have 2 levers on the opposite sides of a cage that would produce a dopamine hit if pressed after the other. To make it interesting, they put an electrically charged grid in between that would give the rats a painful shock if they walked over it. So now the rats would have to cross the grid every time they wanted another dopamine hit. Shockingly, LOL, the rats would run across it until they burned up their legs and couldn't walk anymore. The researchers concluded from these experiments that this dopamine circuit was responsible for creating pleasure. Nowadays this is proved to be wrong, and the actual function of the dopamine circuit is believed to be wanting and motivation. Most things people like to do give a lot of dopamine, much more than anything would have given in nature. Things like watching TV, or Netflix, internet, drugs, processed foods, porn, gambling, and video games. Things that give us a lot of dopamine tend to be addicting. No wonder I was only smoking, watching screens, and lying in bed when I hit rock bottom. Now, why should you care? The reason is very simple. Exposure to high dopamine for longer periods of time reduces dopamine receptors. Lower dopamine receptors give you lower motivation, lower concentration, and less mental sharpness. With there being a lot of supernaturally high dopamine-giving activities and substances available to us, we should all be aware in what amount we should consume them. This is the reason why there are more college and university dropouts more than ever before. Why so many people are unhappy at work. And why there are more cases of depression than ever before. Depression is linked to lower dopamine. Big companies know about this and use it to sell us as much as possible and keep them on their platforms for longer. They put the exact amount of sugar in all food so that we like it the most. They design their platforms so you stay on them a lot, Facebook and Instagram. They implement gambling into games so that we play them more, Fortnite. So what to take away from all this? Lessen the amount of activities you do each day that give you a lot of dopamine and don't add anything to your life. This will give you a natural amount of dopamine receptors again and will make it a lot easier to stay concentrated while reading or learning an instrument, for example. Flow activities. One book that has made a profound impact on my life is the book Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience. The idea of the book is that there are certain activities that for which your brain needs 100% of its power to be focused on the activity. This is when you reach a flow state. In this state you lose the idea of the self, you lose track of time and are only focused on the task at hand. For example, when you drive somewhere and you get there and don't remember how you got there. Flow occurs when your skill matches the challenge of the activity. When your skill is too high, you will be bored. When the challenge is too high, you will be anxious. The key idea from this book, for me, was the difference between pleasure and enjoyment. Pleasure activities are ones that give the high amount of dopamine. Whereas enjoyable activities also give dopamine, but also make you better at the task and will often produce a state of flow. Enjoyment produces growth, pleasure does not. I think that any activity in life that is not a pure pleasure activity can be made into a flow activity. It's one of my goals in life to fill my day with enjoyable activities. It made me realize I wanted to fill my day with making music and reading, not with smoking and watching TV. Journaling. One of the best habits I have built is journaling. More specifically, bullet journaling. I'm not sure if this is the official way to do it, but this is what I do and what works for me. People pay coaches a lot of money to do something they can do themselves as well, give feedback. All a coach does is tell you what you've done and where you can improve. This is something you can do yourself easily by bullet journaling. My method: I have a simple notebook where I use the left and right page for one day. In the morning I write down some things I want to do that day on the left page. If there are things I wanted to do yesterday, I write them down for today. I also write a bit about how I feel. Recently I've been doing some affirmations as well on that page. You can skip this entire left page. I personally like it, but I can understand how it's a bit much for some people. You could also experiment with it and change it up how you like it. The real magic, and the reason I made the coach analogy, is on the right page. Here is where I write down every influential activity I do. I won't write down things like have breakfast or short chat with roommate. I write down everything that has a positive or a negative meaning. Some things are neutral, like doing groceries. Then at the end of the day I will use a marker to color code every activity, either green, positive, or red, negative. So for example, green, get up at 6 a.m. Green, take a cold shower. Green, meditate. Red, smoke a joint. Red, waste an hour on Netflix. Green, go to school. Red, hang out with ex-toxic friend and drink beer. I hope you see what I meant with the coach analogy now. You will get a lot of feedback on what you do each day. When I first started doing this, I was shocked by how much red activities I had and made it a mission to get more green activities in there. It was slow progress, but steadily it got better. If you don't like the left part of the journaling, which is how most people recommend it, I would advise you to try the right page. If you're gonna do one, it should be the right page. See it as a free life coach. Sleep schedule. When I was at rock bottom, my schedule was the furthest away from perfect that it could possibly be. One of the first things I changed that lasted was my sleeping schedule. I was done waking when it's almost dark already and still being tired. Also, I noticed that everything I did in the late evening wasn't productive, or even counterproductive, like watching screens and doing drugs. There are good reasons to wake up early, 5, 6, 7 a.m. The best sleep you can get is the sleep between 10 and 12. If you're still awake at 00:00, you will produce cortisol and adrenaline to keep you awake. This isn't healthy. Good sleep improves cognitive function, vitality, and motivation by a lot. There are many more benefits to a good sleeping schedule, and I think it's well known that it's a lot better. However, most people think it's hard to change their schedule. It's not. This is how you do it. Set your alarm at your goal wake-up time, e.g. 6 a.m. When it goes, get out of bed, immediately eat breakfast. Don't sleep the rest of the day. Make sure you stop all screens by 9:30 and are in bed before 10 o'clock. Set the alarm again, you will most likely wake up before it goes. It's as easy as this. Now all you have to do is to stick with it. Start enjoying the vast amount of time you have available in the morning. 5. Failing forward. The idea of learning from our mistakes isn't a new one, especially in the business world. But somehow, even the idea of failure is still anxiety-inducing in many of us. Even though we know that failure is an inevitable and useful part of life, we still don't feel prepared to face it. So, how do we not only fail forward and use our mistakes to our advantage, but also feel confident facing failure in the first place?